Hey everyone, you're with Mind Body Solutions, and we are going to be working on the sensation of grounding. I'm here with one of our adaptive students, Jeffrey, and Amy, one of our core teachers at Mind Body Solutions. The sensation of grounding is so pervasive and through every aspect of your life, it's really easy to overlook. It's a sensation that we kind of think about it only on the extremes, as opposed to how it's happening through your entire life. It can happen through more effort, and it can happen through effortlessness. This sensation is so pervasive that think about trying to do a yoga pose if you were hanging in midair, tethered to nothing. You would never be able to create any kind of movement in a way that the mind didn't struggle with. So this sensation of grounding is really important for people with disabilities. So if you're living in a wheelchair, think about it. You're never touching the ground. You're not interacting with the world the same way. But even so, let's say you have a neurological deficit and you're constantly struggling with balance. It turns out that the sensation of grounding is integral for people with disabilities. But to be honest with you, it's integral for everybody. It's got many faces. There are many different qualitative differences in sensation, in the sensation of grounding, and they're all important, and we all need them. One of the things that I think is the most important thing about the sensation of grounding is that it feels and should feel like coming home. It's integral to conditions of safety, to conditions of community, to feeling okay about what's happening. And what's wonderful about the sensation of grounding is that it's not a mental activity. That's the consequence. Your mind calms down when you've had the sensation of grounding. Now, there's some things I want to point out that are a little bit strange about the sensation of grounding. And that is that there's the effort part, the force part, like where Amy and Jeffrey are standing on their feet. But there's another component sensation to grounding. And it's a sensation of emptiness. There's emptiness in your base is what I like to tell a lot of students. And that emptiness shouldn't be felt as heavy. When grounding is done well, emptiness feels light and buoyant. And that needs to be simultaneous with your effort. When you're learning and refining your yoga practice, you learn how to combine those two aspects of grounding. So the other thing about grounding, and it's one of our core sensations with Mind Body Solutions, is that it's integral to the sensation of balance. You can't really be on balance if you're not grounded. And another core sensation it's integral to is the sensation of expansion, which there will be other videos on both balance, expansion, and rhythm. But everything always starts with the sensation of grounding. So to start off with, the sensation of grounding can be passive or active. And we want to show a couple examples of it being passive. And what's really important about it being passive is that the sensation of grounding, the quieter part of it, the lighter part of it, the empty part of it, needs to be received. It can't really be asserted. So you're trying to recalibrate your own brain, and if you're sharing this with others, your student's brain. You're trying to calibrate a level of receiving that's not how you normally are in everyday life. So I want to show in the beginning here some examples of this passive form of grounding. So obviously they're grounded on their feet. They're standing in relationship to the floor. But now we want to catalyze a certain level of receiving that comes from when grounding becomes more passive. To do this, I'm going to ask another colleague of mine, Bethany, to come and set sandbags on people's feet. Now, if you can do this at home, it's going to be like having choirs sing. It feels really good. It actually is weight evenly distributed, and what it does is spread the foot. So there's actually more empty spaces in the foot and in the muscles between the bones, and it creates a rising relief of a sensation. So why don't you do it for Jeffrey too, because dang, he deserves it also, right? So again, right, it's a sensation that makes you feel this kind of empty, supported, grounded lightness that creates a sensation that travels through the mind-body relationship and is integral to the sensation of expansion. It makes you kind of want to inhale. That feels really good. Right? It's one of those things that, could life be that simple? And the answer is yes, it can be that simple. Okay, so now there's other types of passive grounding. So we're going to take that off. I'm going to take it off for Jeff here. Okay, so, and it's always, the other thing about taking off a sandbag or weight off your feet or off your lap, you can do this while you're sitting, is that you should also learn from it being taken away, not just put on. So what we're trying to develop through the sensation of grounding is the refined development of inner awareness. Okay, so here we're going to do a simple thing where we call it just supporting the back of the heart or grounding the sternum. Now, this is one of those things. This is a partnership here where both people are trying to listen with their bodies. So how Amy comes in and actually sets her hand on Jeffrey matters. If she comes in too fast and too furious, it's going to throw him off balance, right? So the grounding sensation is slow, especially when it's passive, and it emerges. So she's going to put her hand right between the shoulder blades and go in and up just slightly. And he's practicing how to receive the sensation of support and relief. Amy is also trying to practice what it is to give that kind of support, right? And then she's going to slowly release the sternum. And this will be integral. A lifted chest, we'll talk about this in other videos, ends up being in every yoga pose, right? So, but if Amy is not comfortable with the interaction and steps too far away, right, and leans forward and is off balance herself, this dynamic is not nearly as much about giving and receiving. If she steps in and pushes Jeffrey a little bit too hard, which I don't really want her to do because I don't want Jeffrey to fall over, right? That's not going to be grounding because conditions of safety are violated. So what's really important about this sensation of grounding is a shared sensation when more than one people are doing it. And so she's like being the change she wants to see in the world. Amy knows what it feels like to have her sternum supported. She's passing that sensation on. Jeff gets to study the sensation of grounding as it relates to relief. Relief is a sensation when you live with disability, trauma, and loss, which is not a sensation we practice enough because there's constant managing.
Another important thing to note here is that I'm about the same height as Jeffrey. And so I actually fit pretty well here with him. But if I was a lot taller, I would want to consider possibly going on one knee. So I'm feeling really stable and then coming in here. And that might be a little more comfortable. Notice that I'm still keeping my shoulder relaxed and my hand relaxed. But if he was shorter than I am, then this might be another option for providing this.
When you're in dynamic with people, it matters that both of you feel good, right? That's part of what this is. All right, so that is a sensation. And by the way, in any reference to the back of the sternum, to the center of the chest, to the most integrated part of human consciousness is an important thing. And I'll talk more about that. But supporting someone's center chest is actually one of the best things we can do for each other. So I want to move on from here to actually, I'm going to invite another one of our students in, Kim, right? And she's going to come in and have a seat, and we're going to talk about grounding hands and feet, right? So you've seen now two things that are passive, the sandbag and the hand on the back of the sternum. And remember, what we want you to think about is these aren't the only ways to create passive grounding, but we want you to study the sensation of passive grounding so you can figure out how to create it in your own practice and when you're helping others. The thing I said earlier is that the sensation of grounding can be both active and passive. And in fact, when the empty lightness of your awareness can get grounded and be simultaneous with action, you've actually done something really important, calming and empowering for human consciousness. And so I'm going to ask Kim to put her hands on the table, and like, it all matters. What if everything actually matters, right? That actually we're trying to get it, and Jeffrey's going to do it on his knees, right? So he's going to lean forward a little bit there, right? There you go. Come on the edge of the chair, because like this posture allows him to feel more grounding. Jeffrey, when you lean back, just lean back again, all the way back, all the way back. He's not going to be as grounded. I mean, that's obvious, but it's not so obvious in yoga poses. Come forward. So him being on his sitting bones, feeling grounding, extend your fingers. So you're like, yeah, like that. Not too hard, just like kind of open your palms, right? So here, your brain has a whole bunch of sensors in your thumb and in your big toe mound. So literally when you're grounding your hands and feet simultaneously, you are actually engaging the brain on both conscious and subconscious levels. And so with Jeffrey, I'm going to ask him to keep your fingers out again, right? I want the palms to be more active and the fingers to express the calming of the palm. So what we're doing here, I want you to feel the different joints, right? So I want you to press your feet down into the floor, right? Think of this, your hands and feet right now, as creating a structure around the spine that is actually the thing that's supposed to receive here. So I'm touching lightly behind your sternum again, right? Because I know this is very yogic when this gets supported. And so she's opening her fingers, she's stretching from the inner knee down to the inner heel, the inner groin down to the inner knee to the inner heel. She's feeling her feet, maybe even lengthening her toes. And she's activating slightly her spine, softening the inside of her mouth. That's a form of grounding, softening the lips. Same here with Jeffrey, right? He's trying to feel more rather than less, but I want him to feel strong. I want him to push on his hands, push on the table, push on the feet a little bit, and still receive the lightness coming up through the spine. And breathe, because the integration of active grounding with passive grounding while breathing, you pretty much have a really good yoga pose. So there are other things we're going to show not seated, but on a mat on the floor. So I'm here with Joe, and I want to take some time. Joe, you live with quadriplegia, right? Yeah. And for how long?
It'll be 20 years next month.
20 years. There's an anniversary, right? But Joe knows in his yoga practice, because he doesn't get to, having your feet on the foot pedals is not the same in the level of grounding. So here we've got him set up already in a grounding position where he's got more reference against his feet. He's got a belt through his legs and actually a block between. So he's including reference. We're including reference in parts of his body that he doesn't feel as well. There's a principle here that's going to run through all of these videos, is that mind enters the body more through reference. So this setup, right, where we're intentional and he's more in alignment, creates a sensation of lightness that you don't usually get during your life, right?
And connection to ground.
Exactly. So this setup has already started the process. What I'm going to have here is first to talk, so like letting Joe see this already. He starts to respond to touch because he knows that this is me setting up the sensation of lightness in him and the sensation of reference. And so what I want, and this is part of how someone feels uplifted when they're sitting in the chair. We're going to ground his knees here and push back. So Bethany's going to come in front and get in a position where, and again, just like what it was with Amy, how she positions herself, right? And she's pushing in. And Joe is receiving. Now you see his head move right there. He's receiving that. And so now, and this is going to be in future videos too, now she's going to release. And we're going to continually contrast grounding between it coming in and leaving. So you kind of create an appetite in the student and in yourself, in your own practice, where you're going to always prefer the sensation of grounding. And so here it comes in again. Joe is trying to go and move with it. it's more felt. He takes a couple of breaths. And then when Bethany releases, I know, Joe, it gets heavier, like things get heavier again, right? Yeah, so there's a one more time. There's a feeling of uplift from the grounding sensation that is one of those things that's very hard to initiate. Joe lives with quadriplegia, and so he doesn't get this uplifting sensation very often, and then release. So this is grounding, thanks Bethany. This is grounding that creates a sensation of direction too. All right, now I want to move to Kim. So Kim is lying down, which changes the relationship to gravity, which changes how the grounding feels. I want her, when you're lying on the floor, you want to take advantage of the surface area, right? So she's lying on the floor and her spine is completely grounded with more surface area. That's a plus, okay? But now when someone's horizontal on the ground, it's a little bit more difficult to create more overt, effortful grounding. So what we've done here is give, again, mind enters the body through reference, right? Where we put a rolled up sticky mat down between the midline, because your spine energy travels more down the inside edge of your legs more than the outer edges. And so what we're trying to do with the belts and the sticky mat is to create a dynamic of reference that allows her to travel down her leg. And so Kim, extend out through your inner heel a little bit, right? So she can travel the whole way down through, right? And she has one foot that moves a little bit more than the other, but exactly because she can't move the other foot as well is why we've got more reference. Because she can't move her foot and get the reference back to her brain, she can travel down the length of the props, right? And just cause, Kim, inhale and take your arms up over your head. So from the connection to your legs, now she's got a way to extend this way and extend this way with more support and grounding sensation traveling from her legs to her arms. That's yoga. All right, and then take your arms back. So now I'm going to invite Amy in again, and we're going to do a different kind of grounding with Jeff. Amy, take it away.
In line with Jeff, and are simply going to put my feet right into Jeff's feet. So we've got this great grounding sensation going feet to feet, recreating some of the sensations that Kim's experiencing, but actually doing it with a partner here. And so I'm just moving up feet to feet, and notice too how I can do a little rotation there. So we could even play with a little rotation in and out, heel to heel going through here.
Because it turns out that rotation, Tadasana is in every pose. We'll talk about this in other places. The rotation of the inner head of the femur bone slightly in and down is an integral move in almost every yoga pose. And so Amy's actually doing that by turning his feet in.
And so this is a great way of grounding. And then I would invite Jeff, and he's a good student, so he knows this already. He's already beginning to take on the pose, using the reference as a base or as a source of direction and as a way of receiving the benefit of the pose. I'm going to slide in just a little bit more, get in a little bit grounding, and I can feel Jeff now pressing right into my feet as we work on grounding together.
And then slowly release for a second. So now, remember, we're always teaching by contrast when you're trying to teach subtlety, and especially in recognizing the different variations of grounding. So, Jeff, will you take your arms up over your head? And so as he's hanging here in midair, which is not an easy thing, now Amy's going to ground his feet, and he's going to get more connection, right, Jeff? You can feel that. Yeah, and so it allows the grounding sensation here now can travel, now even extend your fingertips and your palms, right? So the grounding sensation, he needs to learn how to bring that nuanced conditions of safety and coming home all the way through to his fingertips. That's what a yoga pose does. And then slowly take your arms down and move out of it. So now I'm going to invite the other Jeff into it. Come on in. And we're going to do this is a form of relaxation but it's also in a position that actually really matters. So just watch the precision. I mean, this is years and years. Jeff being able to get up and down off the floor has taken a lot of yoga, a lot of practice, and a lot of forbearance on Jeff's part. So we're going to set him up. So one of the things, Jeff is lucky enough he can stand straight up and down too, but for someone in a wheelchair, this position actually mirrors the sitting position. And what's different about it, like, so think about how I'm sitting in my chair. I don't have the grounding sensation on the backside of my spine, right? So one of the reasons why this is a passive form of grounding is that now the sitting position's been inverted. When he's sitting upright, when a person's sitting upright, they don't get this extra level of grounding. So I want Jeff to really just let it in. Like, and you can't see that on camera, but when you learn, this is one of the skills you want to learn with passive grounding, is how to let that sensation of space, emptiness, and lightness seep into you. Notice it, like you seep in, you let grounding in the way like a paper towel takes in moisture. Get good at watching it. The other thing about this position that I really like as a form of relaxation, so this is, we're heading towards the end here, is that you have, when you are supported like this underneath your legs, your abdomen and your psoas muscle gets to really feel the drop. And any awareness that you can help a student feel in their abdomen and their lower abdomen in relationship to input on their legs allows them to get that lightness and to let it travel into their chest. So everybody, soften the inside of your mouth and start to just let go. So we're not going to make you watch the relaxation part, but damn, it's going to feel good, because the sensation of grounding is one of the core nourishments that's available while you're alive.